Welcome back to another Cabral Concept. I'm Stephen Cabral, board certified naturopathic doctor, and today on a Training Thursday, we're going to talk about workout programs, how to structure them properly to get the maximum amount of results. All right, so one of the big things that I've seen, and just kind of, I've worked in health clubs. I haven't worked in health clubs for a long time, but I first started my career essentially in health clubs at the age of 17, 18 years old, getting into this industry. And so the first thing that I saw is that the majority of people tended to do a little bit of cardio, and then they would get off the cardio and maybe just do some light arm curls or some bicep curls, something like this, just at the end of their workout, or do a little bit of abs. What I want to tell you today, though, is if you're really looking to spend less time in the gym and get better results, you're going to want to create a program that just makes sense to maximize your time in there. Now, if you have all the time in the world, maximizing your time or picking the correct order of exercises might not make as much of a difference. It still makes a difference, but not as much as someone who's looking to do 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 45 minutes or so of an average workout that they have, especially if you're doing it like 3 or 4 times a week maximum. All right, so here's the main principle you want to think about, and that's what we call putting the big rocks in first. And so what does that mean? What it means is this. Let's say you have a big barrel, and beside that barrel, you have some large boulders, you have some medium-sized rocks, some small rocks, and then just some sand, right? And now your job is to fill that barrel up as quickly as possible and the most efficient way that you can. So what you're looking to do is to say, how do I fill this barrel? How do I get the best results the fastest way possible? I'm going to take the boulders, I'm going to take the big rocks, and I'm going to throw them in that barrel first. Then the medium rocks, then the small rocks, which are going to fall into their places they need to, and then how do I fill the rest of the space? Well, I take the sand, the light stuff, and I throw that in at the end. That's essentially how a proper workout program is designed. The best fitness instructors, personal trainers, coaches, whatever it might be, are going to look at your program and say, what's going to get you the most bang for your buck? What's going to work the largest amount of muscle for exercises, meaning those compound exercises we've talked about in the past, which simply means multi-joint, which also just means working 2 joints at the same time, like a shoulder joint and an elbow joint for a chest press or a shoulder press or a lat pull down or a row. And then it also means for the lower body, a squat, a deadlift, a lunge, and a step up. That's it, right? So your big rocks are those multi-joint movements. They are using the maximum amount of muscle up front. Why would you want to do that? Well, your body's fresh, and so you're going to want to take advantage of that. You're going to want to be able to lift your best weights with the best output in the very beginning before you get fatigued. So that means setting up a program where the first grouping of exercises are going to be more like chest presses instead of chest flies, shoulder presses instead of like lateral raises, and squats or deadlifts or Romanian deadlifts instead of something like a hamstring curl or a leg extension. That just is going to get you much better results because you're working so much more muscle. And if you work more muscle, well, guess what? That's going to boost your metabolism to a greater degree. That's science-based. That is how it works. We can want it to work in other ways. We can want to work abs first or those small muscle groups, but that's not going to give you the maximum effort and maximum output, which is going to lead to the maximum amount of results. So after that, let's say that you do 20 minutes or 30 minutes of those big exercises, or you don't even need that much. After that, then you say, you know what, I still want to do some bicep exercises, I still want to do some abs, I still want to do those little exercises like adductor work or core work, whatever it might be. That is a great time to add towards the end, right? So that's more those little rocks or the sand that you add at the end. Why? Because the muscles that you're working are much smaller, typically isolated just using one joint, like your knee joint extending or flexing, or your elbow joint simply extending or flexing. And that's okay because now you're fatiguing those little muscles and you've already worked the bigger ones, which work those smaller ones anyways, to a greater degree. So what does that mean? Well, even when you're doing those larger exercises like a chest press or shoulder press, you're still working your triceps. And even when you're working the rows and lat pull downs, you're still working your biceps as a secondary muscle group, which means they're already getting worked. So if you do those little ones at the end, those muscles have already been warmed up, already worked, and now it's just kind of like the icing on the cake. So that is my big recommendation, is when you're designing any program, and even if you're looking through a book or magazine, you say, is this a good program or not? Well, look to make sure it's kind of like a full body or balance-based workout, and look to make sure that it's putting the big exercises up front so that when you fatigue, you're fatiguing on the maximum amount of muscle tissue possible. And again, work the most amount of muscle tissue possible so that you can boost your metabolism to the greatest degree and you can keep that fat burning or oxidation process going for a much longer period of time. I don't want to complicate things, but I want you to know the fundamentals and the principles, because when you know the fundamentals and principles, you can make judgment calls for yourself, and you can also start to understand why myself or other people would design programs that are going to be front loaded with larger amounts of big exercises, meaning like your fundamental pushes and pulls and rows and presses and squats and deadlifts and lunges and step-ups. Those are the ones that you need. You take care of those, everything else takes care of itself, then you can do the fun stuff at the end. If you follow that, you're gonna be way ahead of the game and you're gonna be getting much more results out of your workouts, and you're gonna need to work out less. Hopefully that helps today. I look forward to hearing your feedback, and of course, I'll be back real soon on the Cabral Concept.